Welcome to the SnapCast podcast, where two friends who love Magic the Gathering, Brad O'Brien and Zach Moeller, talk about all things competitive, casual, and financial in the world of MTG. What's going on, Zach?
Not much, Brad. How about yourself?
Today, not too much.
That's good. How about the rest of the beginning of the week? There we go.
Well, so let's see. We recorded last Wednesday. I was on vacation.
Yep.
It didn't even occur to me, really, that the next day was St. Patrick's Day. And so I had a fun couple of days. I had a fun St. Patrick's Day. I had a fun gig the next night. Partied Saturday with some friends, played some EDH.
Nice.
It was a good weekend. And then Monday was my first day back to work after being out for a week. And that was a little harder than it should have been.
It usually is.
Yeah.
It usually is. Those vacations usually fly by too quickly.
The other thing was last Friday here in Maine was one of the most beautiful days that we've had this spring. Like, it was legit 65 degrees and it was such a nice day. So
It was very surprising to have a nice early spring day, and then it went right back down to almost freezing the next day.
Yes, it did. But it definitely, that also made the next week a little harder because it was like, and we just before we hit record, we were sort of talking about it, but like that, those days like that are why I want to live here.
Yep. They are nice days.
Yep. What have you been up to this week?
Just work, pretty much. Work and trying out some different Magic lists.
Oh, yeah. So what are we going to talk about today?
So you had pitched this a few times over the past few weeks. Greasefang listed Modern does okay in Pioneer, and you've been toying with something that I rented off of a online service, and I've jammed a few leagues with it. So
all right, so we'll talk about that.
A little bit.
Some of the weekend results, the SCG results, and maybe we'll crack some packs because Brad actually had some success at Modern last night. Have you played any Magic since the last time I saw you?
I played last Friday, and then that was it. I didn't go last night. And there's other than playing online, that I haven't played much in-person Magic, and I probably won't for a few weeks. I've got other weekend plans coming up. I know there's a 1K
in Augusta.
There's a special event in Augusta this weekend, and there's a 1K down in New Hampshire next weekend that I won't. Yeah. I won't be attending, but
I'm also, we're sort of getting into that season where, I have a gig. I have plans Saturday afternoon and then a gig Saturday night, and then the next week I have a gig Friday night and Saturday night, and the week after I have an afternoon performance and a Saturday night performance, and it's like I think we're both going to find ourselves in that time.
Yeah, and I think I don't think we've actually said this on cast yet, but we talked about it moving forward in the summertime. We might be recording on a different day.
Yeah.
Right now we usually record Wednesday night. Episode gets released Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. Moving forward in the summertime when we're both really busy, it's probably going to be recording on Sunday afternoon and then uploading in the middle of the week. So when that time comes, some of the online results will be different because we won't have the Sunday challenge event results, but we'll deal with that when it happens.
Exactly. There's a lot to happen between now and then, and frankly, after going through the cold, hard winter in Maine, remembering why we want to live in this state, like going out in the woods, going to camp. Mm-hmm. You were talking about one of those events you were trading out for paintball.
Yep. Yeah, I joined a buddy of mine in his paintball group the end of last summer, and we're doing that again this time around, and that's happening on April 2nd. So I'm really excited for that. Haven't been paintballing since last fall, and I got some new equipment for it. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just some protectors so I don't get bruised.
That's definitely not a game you want to play on a frosty morning.
No.
Nope. Like if you've left your paintballs in the car overnight and it's cold, you don't want to get hit with a cold paintball.
No. The one time I went we got there, we had to let it warm up a little bit before we started shooting. So,
Yeah.
but it was good. It was a good time. So, magic stuff, magic related stuff, because that's what we're here for.
Well, hold on. Let's go back to you played on Friday.
Yep.
What'd you play? How'd it go?
I played Fish.
Okay.
I feel like our local meta, even though people know how to play against it, it's still the best tool in my tackle box. You know what I mean? Like it's just what I can do best. I went 2-2, just out of prize support.
Yeah.
John King got first. I think he was on Tron. Might be mistaken. I lost to so it was John King, Andy, GB, and I want to say Elijah made prizes.
Okay.
I lost to Andy in round 4 on monoblock control.
Oh man, yeah, what a fun deck that is. I think we'll be seeing a bit more of that. I don't think we saw any of that in these results that we're going to look at, but I would be surprised if we don't see them in the next episode's league results.
Yep. I know that Aspiring Spike played a similar monoblock list in one of these challenges. Unfortunately, he went X2 drop pretty, by round 5, he was out of it. But the deck is seeing play, and it's something that people should probably be aware of if they're playing online, looking at something other than their local events, or maybe even at their local events, at their local game stores.
Be on the lookout for big mana black.
Yep.
Cabal Coffers and Urborgs, which were probably they're probably a pick. As far as like
a pick. Yep.
Cards to pick up, Cabal Coffers is not that expensive right now, and if that deck gets any popularity between Cabal Coffers already commander driven $25 price tag or whatever, I think it could be a $50 card pretty quick.
Probably. Is it what's the price of it right now? We're going to look about price
live and on the air.
Live and on the air. Excuse me. Because last I knew, I knew it was around $20, but I thought I heard it dropped towards 15. But I might be no.
So depending, the Modern Horizons 2 regular market is around 19, Torment's about 23, Plane Chase is about 25.
But that's also not those aren't any of the extended arts or borderless that came out recently as well.
So the borderless is market price 32.
Okay.
Copies near mint are around 30.
Okay. So if you don't have them now, you might want to think about grabbing a few.
Yeah.
It is seeing more play, and it's mostly modern driven, other than EDH. But
right. So EDH is why this card has stayed probably at the price it is. But if we see more people playing the big mana mono black in modern, where you need it as a 4 of, this will probably jump up. It was a mythic rare in a premium set.
Yep.
And that full art one is really pretty. They also did an etched foil.
That's what I think it was trying to tell us. There it is. It's foil etched.
Which is the same art, foil etched.
That can't be right. So it doesn't show us an image on TCG, but it's sitting at around 20.
Yeah, and there are many copies available at 20, so you could get a playset. I actually think I might have one in the binder behind us, but it doesn't look that good.
Yeah,
frankly.
Yep.
It's the dark kind of foil etching.
Okay.
So,
and that's probably what's driving the price of that down a little bit.
Yeah. But let's see what did show up on Saturday in the Modern Challenge results. Give us the quick rundown.
So the quick rundown is four color elementals took first, Tremere Footfalls took second, Blue-White Control third, Bant Control fourth, Amulet Titan fifth, Blue-Red Murktide sixth, Blue-White Saga Blade is seventh, and then Mono-White Hammer is eighth. So another diverse metagame, like another diverse top 8.
Yep.
In 9th is another Titan deck, 10th is another Elementals deck, and 11th is 5-color humans. If you scroll down, which I always get confused on your setup, the top 32 Architect breakdown, we had 5 Blue-Red X Murktide. There was a Tamir Murktide list somewhere. Four color blank, 3 Blue-White X control, which is all the control variants. 3 Amulet, 2 4-color elementals, which both made top 8. 2 Footfalls, 2 Dredge, a Saga Blade, a Mono White Hammer, 1 5-color humans, a Mono Green Tron, a Blue-Red control, which I'm surprised they didn't add that with
Blue
the
Moon?
control. That might be Blue Moon.
I wonder.
Bring to Light, Scape Shift, 4-color creativity, Bance, Stoneblade, Affinity deck, which is interesting because Affinity hasn't been around since the death of Mox Opal.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the 8 cast.
That might be the 8 cast. Blue-Red midrange, Black-Red midrange, and Green-White Saga. So
An interesting breakdown. A lot of Murktide.
a lot of Murktide made top 32, which now that Loris is gone, it has gravitated towards the top end of what people are playing and seeing. My Moto experiences have definitely been more Murktide.
Yeah.
I actually did a modern prelim Monday night. 3 of my 4 rounds were Murktide. Rounds 1, 2, and 3 were all Murktide.
That's gross.
Yep. So, it was strong when Loris was a thing, and it's just as strong, if not better, without it. So
Yeah. But only one made the top 8.
only one made the top 8. So the conversion rate for this event, at least, there was 5 copies of it. So 25% of the Murktide players made top 8. Still not bad.
Still not bad. I want to look at some of the interesting things here.
Sure.
5-color humans. Have not seen that in a top 8 in a minute.
I wonder if it is
I wonder if it's cute.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the Aspiring Spike version that we were looking at last cast.
It is not.
Nope.
Okay, so this is the current safe version. It is running 3 Adeline Resplendent Cathar, because having that trigger your Champion of the Parish and Values Lieutenant is crazy. It is running Torok, Dread Counter. A big part of that is the new Secluded Courtyards can pay for abilities on creatures.
Which is insane.
So you can pay the black kicker cost
Yep.
with Secluded Courtyards.
Because you basically needs 3 black sources, because he's double black initially, and then black and one generic in the kicker cost. So, yeah, that's... Oh, no, excuse me. He's one in black, and then his kicker is double black. So that's where the color-intensive mana comes from.
Right.
So
And something like... Yeah. I guess kicker is just an additional cost, so you could probably do it with Unclaimed Territory. It's not like an activated ability on Torok, but I do think that, what a good card. And it's a human, and it has protection from white. How crazy is that?
dodges all the best white removal in the format right now with Solitude, Solitude, March of Otherworldly Light, and
Prismatic Ending.
Look
at that. March of Otherworldly Light has become so popular that Prismatic Ending is hard to remember.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about last night. I got to do some stuff with March of Otherworldly Light.
Nice.
But, I appreciate the humans, so I'm happy to see them just outside of the top 8 in a pretty big modern event.
Yep.
What's on here that makes you go,
I assume the affinity list is blue-white, Urza combination stuff, Thoughtcast. So there's 4 Thoughtcast and 4 Thought Monitor. So it is 8 cast.
Yeah.
No Urza to speak of to make the Golem tokens or whatever. So
yeah,
it's pretty low to the ground, but it's pretty typical.
Treasure Vault, another land that is in all of these decks every time.
Yep.
I did get those cool Darksteel Citadels, by the way.
Oh, nice.
That we talked about a while ago. I just saw those and I'm like, oh man, I want to put this deck together just to play that.
I think it's, having played against this deck, it is low to the ground. You don't have a lot of big, beefy creatures, but you get to bury your opponent in so much card advantage, and you're playing the Urza Sagas to make the giant constructs.
Yeah.
It's a good deck to play.
It is. The only problem that I see with it is turn 1 Ragavan, you're like, I hope I have a 0 drop. Like, you get so... To talk about getting buried, you can fall behind really quick on somebody that goes turn 1 Ragavan, turn 2 DRC, bobble, like swing at you. They have 3 mana.
Yeah.
But that's modern. That is modern, man. I mean, you can play against any one of these decks with whatever you pick, and you're thinking, how does my deck potentially win this matchup?
Exactly. You got to have a game plan. You got to know what your deck does specifically, and if you know or have a decent idea of what your opponent is doing and how you can disrupt that, you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Wise words, sir. Other than that,
the green-white saga list looks, let's just take a quick look at that.
Yeah, is that the Hay Bears list? Oh, I like it.
So this is running 4 Elvish Reclaimer.
I love that card.
Which hasn't seen a ton of spotlight, but it's getting more popular, and I like it. Mm-hmm. It's a 1 generic green. It's a 1/2. He gets +2/+2 as long as there are 3 more lands in your graveyard, and then he can tap, sacrifice a land, use search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield tap. This hits fetches, triomes, duels, basics, everything. Urza Saga.
That's the big one.
So it hits everything.
Yeah.
So
I
have to. Okay, there we go. There we go. So the other cards this is playing.
Let me put it on the screen.
There you go. I was wondering why it wasn't there. 4 Esper Sentinel, Lion Sash, a Skyclave Apparition, Solitudes, Mystics, Stoneforge Mystics, Tireless Trackers, Prismatic Ending with March of Otherworldly Light.
7 removal spells there.
The 2 best white removals in the format. Cauldron Complete for the Stoneforge package with Shadow Spear and Sword of Fire and Ice.
Yep.
There's usually another sword somewhere in the sideboard to switch out. Yep, there's Feast and Famine. Touch of the Spirit Realm is kind of cool in this list because you can rebuy Solitudes, Skyclave Apparitions, and reset a Stoneforge Mystic if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah, you can blink. Yeah, so those all pay off. It's also, and again, not foreshadowing too much, having a main deck O-Ring occasionally is awesome. It's not quite an O-Ring, but it's pretty close to an O-Ring, which is not a card I would say you should play in Modern. But Touch of the Spirit Realm, having a 2-mana channel that works with your deck, that is occasionally a 3-mana take somebody's Chalice of the Void off the board.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
It's good. It'll also, even for 2 mana, you can blink their Chalice.
Exile target artifact or a creature.
So if they have a Chalice on 1 for 2 mana, you can channel this. If they have a Chalice on 2, you can pay 2 mana and channel this and blink their Chalice and put it on 0.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
And it's main board to deal with that. So that's actually really cool.
Yeah. And unfortunately it doesn't hit enchantments. But guess what does?
March of Otherworldly Light.
March of Otherworldly Light. So this looks fun. Beseiju Who Endures. We keep saying that in basically every green Modern deck. If this was a mythic, this would be a redonkulously expensive card already.
I mean, it still kind of is.
I mean, it's the regular version's 25, 26.
Yep. The fancy artwork, which is what's on screen here, is I think closer to 35. But yeah, I mean, it's $25 for Legendary Land. That's currently in Standard.
And it's a rare.
That's
pretty high. 3 Flagstones, because what do you want to sack with your Elvis Reclaimer besides Flagstones of Trocare so that you can go search up Temple Garden and an Urza Saga? Mm-hmm. How good is that? This looks a lot of fun, and this fell in 31st place.
Yep.
But I don't think that's because this deck doesn't do powerful things.
No, I think it probably plays mid-rangey to some extent. Yep. I mean, you have Cauldron Complete, which if you go turn 4, if you're on the play and go turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic, and you get to jam Kotos complete on turn 3 without any interaction from your opponent, it's almost usually game.
See if you can remember to ask me about that later.
Okay.
I am excited to talk about that.
Okay.
But this is a cool list.
It's very cool.
What did we see on Sunday?
So Sunday, we have Blue-White Control in first place, Tremere Footfalls again in second, Blue-Red Murktide, Jund Yawgmoth, which is different, Living End in fifth, Dredge in sixth, Amulet Titan in seventh,
Nice.
Jund Wish Shift,
Yeah,
me,
sorry.
in eighth, and I have no idea what that is. It's probably like a Wish sideboard, I would imagine.
Yep. Playing the new Red Wish from MH2.
Yep.
Looking at our top 32 breakdown, there were 4 Teamer Footfalls, 4 Blue-Red X Murktide decks, so same as the day before.
Yep.
3 White X Hammers, so more hammers showed up on Sunday. 2 Blue-White Control, 2 Living End, 2 Dredge, 2 Wish Shift. If this takes off, I'm going to be so mad because that's so hard to say.
It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue like some things do.
Not like Scape Shift. Like the name of a card, you assholes.
Yep.
2 Grixis Shadow, 2 Mono Green Tron. Not surprised, They're loving their best Beseiju life.
Mm-hmm.
Jund Yawgmoth, which you pointed out, is different because we're used to seeing black-green Yawgmoth. Played against it last night. 1 Amulet Titan, Mardu Reanimator. Oh, baby. I want to look. That's a list I want to look at.
Okay.
5-color Creativity, Blue-Black Mill, 4-color Blink, Bring to Light Scape Shift. Hey, I know what that deck does. 4-color Elementals, and then the Red-White Javier Blade. Oh, baby. That's the one that I like with the 1-drop haste.
The Fervent Champion?
Fervent Champion.
Gotcha.
Thank you, yeah. Javier Blade. So somebody's also got a sense of humor. I went first last time. What's a deck list you want to look at from Sunday's challenge?
Let's just look at the Jund Yawgmoth because I haven't seen this.
What do they splash red for?
So off the top, it looks like Magus of the Moon as a 1 of in the main board.
Okay.
And then that's kind of it for main board red cards. Everything else looks pretty standard. Blood Odds main board as a 1 of. I don't know if Endurance is typically played
In the
main board, but this is playing it as a 2 of. Essence Warden kind of goes along with Blood Oddist.
Yeah.
It's a singleton, so they can fetch it with Eldritch Evolution or Quarter Calling, which are both 4 ofs.
Yep.
Gilded Goose as a 4 of, and Ignoble Hierarch as a 4 of.
Yep.
Stringroot Geist, Wall of Roots, Yawgmoth himself, Young Wolf, all 4 ofs.
All staples in the green-black archetype.
And the sideboard, I don't see anything red either.
So it's literally just a Magus of the Moon splashed off of 1 stomping ground.
Yep.
Frickin' awesome.
So they have, how many fetch lands do they have? 2, 4. So they have 6 fetch lands that they can go and fetch this singleton stomping ground off of.
The other thing is, though, Quarter Calling and Eldritch Evolution put them into play, right?
They do. Yep.
So I guess really you could be as sneaky as you want, which I saw. Sorry. As another aside, I saw a Boggles player last night being sneaky.
Ooh.
In the sideboard, Force of Vigor, typical. Necromentia, don't see that a lot in Modern. But, I mean, if you want to take somebody off of a Tron, their Tron lands, you might be able to do that. Turn one, why can I not think? Sorry.
Ignoble Hierarch.
Well, I'm thinking, Overgrown Tomb, Ignoble Hierarch, turn 2, any other land. Necromentia, take somebody off Tron. That's pretty spicy.
Yep. And we've seen cards like this before. They don't, for whatever reason, Magic 20...
M21?
M21, thank you. Core Set 21, whatever you want to call it. This iteration of the card seems to have just done better in the Modern format. For whatever reason. But it's been here before, it's been playable before, but people just haven't gravitated towards it until apparently now.
I did play against the black-green version of this. I did not see Magus of the Moon last night, But I did have a Thrun swinging at me that had exalted from a noble hierarch.
Oh, wow.
Ignoble hierarch. Let's see. Let's go back to the Sunday list. So that was cool.
That's a cool list.
And again, I think it's cute that they're splashing that Magus of the Moon because they know that they can either put it into play for free or fetch that one stomping ground.
And just looking at this top 8, like how good is Blood Moon against this top 8?
Yeah.
Yep.
Teamer Footfalls. Not a whole lot of basics there, although most of you guys play.
It's usually one of each.
Right, and I was going to say, you also play Blood Moon, don't you?
I do. Yep.
Yeah.
We usually play it in this type of list.
3 Blood Moons.
So
you're not, that deck's not too scared of it.
No.
Blue-Red Murktide probably doesn't love it, but could play around it.
Dredge, Living End, hate it. Titan hates it.
Yeah.
Control hates it. So having a Silver Bullet main board is pretty cool.
There was one, obviously the Javier Blade. I got to look at that.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah.
That's, again, super up my alley. Playing a Wandering Emperor, the first thing I see. A Batter Skull and 3 Sword of Fire and Ice as the Stoneforge Mystic Tutor targets.
Makes sense.
Ooh.
Blue-red seems to be the most common colors played in the meta right now, other than white. You know, you can make an argument for blue-red, white,
Teamer, blue-red.
But Sword of Fire and Ice, every Stoneforge package I have seen has been playing at least one Sword of Fire and Ice.
Elganja, Seat of the Empire. This is playing... Oh, and the Sokazon. So this is playing 1 copy each of the red and white Legendary Channel lands.
First one's always free.
First one's always free. Rabbit Battery, being able to later on give other creatures haste is so good. This is playing 4 Magus of the Moon. Wow.
Well, this list, you have double white spells in Solitude and the Wandering Emperor, so depending on how you fetch your lands, it's playing 4 Prismatic Vistas, which only fetch the basics.
Yeah.
So being able to fetch for double white pretty easily, that's fine.
Well, and the other thing is, you only ever need single red.
Correct.
So yeah, you can be pretty aggressive in your fetching for white, because you know, even if you Blood Moon your Sacred Foundry, you have red still. So, and
you're playing Ragavan, so you know if it's turn 3, you've connected maybe once with Ragavan. You have a treasure that can make double white or help cast double white. So,
Cauldron Complete in the sideboard, Sword of Feast and Famine in the sideboard.
Cauldron Complete sideboard is different. They probably expected more red base decks, which is why they wanted the Batterskull main board, because usually it's Batterskull sideboard, Cauldron Complete main board. So probably just a meta game choice. They were expecting to see more direct damage spells, maybe more aggro type decks, and Batterskull really just helps with those matchups. Putting something on the battlefield with 4/4 lifelink definitely slows down burn quite a bit.
Definitely slows down burn.
It gives burn major issues.
It gives burn heartburn.
So, but you had another list that you wanted to look at.
I did. In Sunday? What was it?
In Sunday. That I don't remember because I think I...
Was there one?
It was the red-green Wish Shift. Was that it?
Yeah, we were like, what is Wish Shift? Like what? So 4 Wish... So you can play a card you own from outside the game. So you can go get a Valakut. Or you can go get Escape Shift. Or you can go get Fury. Oh, Wish is fun. 2 Dryad of the Ilzian Grove. It's interesting to see these lists going down to 2. And really counting on just having mountains. Right? They're not doing crazy things. This is red and green. 4 Bolt for taking care of your Ragavans. A bunch of ways to play lands.
Ren 6 is up there with, the full 4 copies. So you're on the play. Your opponent played a turn 1 Ragavan. You play a turn 2 Ren 6. You blow it up. Like it's...
You hope they don't dash the next one and kill your Renin 6 before it buys your Boseiju back from the graveyard.
Yep. Yep.
Sounds like a good time. I see a Chalice in the Void here. Actually, I don't think we mentioned in that other list that we were looking at that. Oh, this had EE in the side. There was another list that we had just looked at that had. Oh, now I've lost my place. I tried to be cute and scroll, and now we're looking through every deck list. But I mean, it's just Titan Shift that plays tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Like it plays 4 wish cards, so you can't Necromentia them off of Valakits because they'll go get the Valakit that's in the board.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, right there. That's pretty clever deck building.
It was the Mardu Reanimated that you were looking at for 11. That was it.
Good call. I'm like, I knew there was something else. Okay. Archon of Cruelty. Love it. Blood Tithe Harvester.
What is that?
Okay, new from... It is a blood token creature, black and a red creature vampire 3/2. When it enters, make a blood token, sacrifice it, and target creature gets -X/-X, where X is twice the number of blood tokens you control. Okay, let's look at this deck list and see if there's some other synergies with blood, because...
A Priest of the Fell Rites, I think, does a similar thing.
No, that one you can return a creature from the graveyard to the battlefield.
Okay.
And then you can unearth it so that you can do it again later.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see, like, if that only makes the 1 blood, is the blood just a discard outlet? Oh, that's what it is.
Discard outlet, because it is playing Persist, it's playing Ephemerate, so because this is a ETB makes a blood token.
Yep.
So early on, you can flicker it with one of the multiple bounce spells you have, make that blood token,
Yep.
and then you can pitch Archon or Fury or Solitude even.
Yep.
And then buy it back with Persist. So it's a mid-rangey, blinkish deck, I would say.
And look, it's playing 2 Touch the Spirit Realm.
This card is popping up everywhere, bro.
This card is popping up
everywhere.
If only it were not an uncommon or only worth 20 cents. Also running Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which I have heard more people talking about this card than you would believe. This is 2 and a red for an enchantment that creates a 2/2. Well, I'm going to bring it up, bigger version up. The value off of this card, before you even get the bad Kiki Jiki, is great. Create a 2/2 Goblin Shaman that whenever it attacks, you make a treasure.
Okay.
Next turn, you may discard 2 cards if you do draw that many. Almost a... Who's the guy from Modern Horizons 1? Play him... Discard 2 cards, draw 2 cards.
Seasoned Pyromancer.
Almost Seasoned Pyromancer. If you don't discard any cards, you don't draw any.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have 2 lands in hand when you play this, you can draw 2 fresh cards. Flips over into a 2/2 bad Kiki Jiki.
And it's bad.
and it's bad because you have to pay a mana to activate it.
And it doesn't have haste for the turn that it comes back into play, because it does with the sagas. It does leave the battlefield, flips, and then comes back. So they
so you
don't
need
gain
a turn
they don't gain haste
to do something with it.
Yep.
But the next turn, if you have an Archon in the battlefield and you just make a copy of it, because do the copies that it makes have haste? They must, because then it would be if the copy doesn't have haste, then it's really bad.
Copy has haste.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So that'll end a game pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of these things that they're playing have ETBs that, I don't know, obviously they think the card filtering, again, being able to discard,
Yep.
like, you know what I don't see in this list? Anything like Faithless Salvaging. Like a card that only really exists to pitch the cards that you want to reanimate.
Yep.
Like, how do you get Archon of Cruelty into the graveyard with this list? You hope to hit it with Stitcher Supplier.
Mm-hmm.
You hope to
Discard it with Fable.
Discard it with Fable of the Mirror Breaker, with a blood token from Blood Tithe Harvester. Otherwise, you're really on the value plan until you accidentally get an Archon of Cruelty into the graveyard. Mm-hmm. That's why it's only playing 3 Persist.
Yep.
I'm looking at this now less as a Reanimator deck and more is a mid-range deck that has 3 persist, so that when its Archon ends up in the graveyard, it can bring it back. I don't know. That's interesting. Obviously, this is a Reanimator deck. I'm not taking
Right.
But that's really, really interesting. Kataki War's Wage in the sideboard. FU 8 cast. Hitasugu Consumes All. FU DRC and Ragavan.
And Death Shadow.
Oh,
Yep.
that card is way better than it should be.
Yep.
There's a reason why they printed it at Mythic. They weren't stupid.
And this, more and more people are talking about one of the cards that, people were not talking about in the very beginning. This card is a sleeper. A lot of people underestimated it.
Yeah.
In the beginning stages. It's doing better and better things as this format changes.
It is doing the Lord's work. So good. So that was what was happening in Modern on Sunday on Moto. I did look at some lists from the SCG Con that took place in Indianapolis. They had a 311 player Modern tournament, Living End, Blue White Control, Creatures Toolbox, which is Yawgmoth, Living End, Breach, Living End, Plating Affinity, which is 8 cast with
Cranial
Plating, Blue Red Aggro, which is Murktide. Out of the top 8, Amulet Titan, Azorius, Urza, Creativity, Death Shadow, Elementals, Rakdos, Aggro, and Blue White Control. You're going to see all these decks. And one of the things that you can do is think about what you said this earlier, and this is probably what we're going to talk a little bit about the rest of the episode, is what is your deck doing against those decks? So, you said earlier, Brad had this idea that he wanted to play Greasefang in Modern.
Yep.
He built a list. He took it to Modern last Tuesday and won 3 games out of 9 games. And none of them were no 2 were in the same round. But you took it on yourself to play this deck. So how'd that go?
So I queued it into a few Modern leagues on Moto. Didn't have stellar results. I didn't 4-1 or 5-0. I had the first 2 leagues, I think I did 3-2. So
yeah.
I broke even on those leagues. And then I had like an X3 drop because I don't play my 5 rounds. If I'm X3, I just drop. I don't bother playing the last 2.
Okay.
So I had some.
And that's because at that point,
results.
you'll never get your money back?
Correct. You only get, it's like 50 play points, which is the in-game currency basically, besides tickets, which cost $1 a piece.
For those that are listening, I am a Moto novice because I'm a Mac guy. And I, at one point, bought a PC and put Moto on it. And then they were like, here's Arena.
Yep.
And I can and then they were like, you can play it on your iPad now. So sorry.
Nope,
when you're like
fine.
and I don't want people to think like there are probably a lot of people that understand what you mean by the currency, but I
True.
think a lot of Magic players don't play Moto.
Yep.
So understanding that there's an in-game currency that you pay to get into events that you can also get back. Mm-hmm. How does that work?
So you basically have 2 ways to play events. You can buy tickets, which cost $1, basically $1 a piece. So 1 ticket's $1 basically, or play points. Play points are it's essentially the gold of Arena, where you can earn these play points by playing leagues and individual matches, and you can accumulate enough to enter other events. That's basically it. There's just those 2 forms of currency.
Okay. And in a Modern league, going 3-2 breaks even.
Basically breaks even. You get, I think it's 100 play points and 1 treasure chest, which you can then sell the chest for tickets, which the average cost of a treasure chest is roughly 2.5 tickets, depending on who you go through.
Okay.
It fluctuates a little bit
by
like a percentage. Okay. Or you could open the treasure chest and you can get...
Hope to rip.
It's basically a lottery ticket. You get some number of play points out of it, and then usually there's a list of cards that you could get something out of. I just sell mine because I I've fallen into the habit of I'm going to open this treasure chest and be really disappointed in my 10 play points that I get. So
Yeah.
I
Or
just,
you get your 2.5 tickets.
or you get your 2.5 tickets back.
And then what does it cost to get into a league?
A league is 10 tickets or 100 play points. So,
Okay. So if you get the 100 play points from going 3-2, you can start another league.
Correct. Yep. And then you just hope to roll those over and over.
What if you go 2-3?
2-3, you get 50 play points.
Okay.
Or less even. I'm pretty sure it's 50.
Yeah.
So it's not worth my time to finish those last
so by
two
the time
matches
you
at
lose
X3.
the third round,
Yeah.
you're like, yeah.
Yep.
If on the off case I win the next two, great. I get half or less of my cost back. Mm-hmm. I could see that. Time is super valuable, people.
It is. So my league results for the first iteration were about average. I think I changed the list at that point. I think I tried it without playing Grease Fangs and just did a 80 card Yorion Blink pile.
Okay.
Which was okay. It had a lot more. I don't want to say like power to it, but it was much more consistent. Right.
Okay.
A lot of the times in that first list, I was finding I could do Stoneforge package, and then I have these blink cards that don't really work with the germ token, or there's really no point in blinking the Stoneforge Mystic. So like, what am I doing?
Yep.
Right, I'm trying to do two different things at once.
Yep.
So I cut the Grease Fang package because that wasn't working for me at all, and just went more mid range.
Yep.
Played a few leagues with that. Nothing better than a 3-2 result. So overall, out of like, let's just call it 5 leagues that I played with it, it was fun, and I think there's potential there. But I was okay with it.
Gotcha. And it does make me wish that I did have the ability to play Moto right now, because I would like to be jamming iterations of this deck other than, so the deck that I brought last Tuesday had 3 Grease Fangs and 3 Parhelions and 3 Lilianas and 4 Griefs, 4 Solitudes, 4 Ephemerates, a Stoneforge package, some Esper Sentinels, and I didn't have a whole lot of interaction. Like right after that first night, you and I sat down and looked at the list, and we're like, well, where's your Fatal Push? Where's your March of Otherworldly Light? Where's your removal so that you can get to playing your 3-4, mana spells, or, and I made some changes to that. And actually talked to Andy a fair bit. And Andy was the one that had suggested, he's like, you know what this needs? This is cute and all. Maybe you need like a really powerful second thing. Mm-hmm. And he brought up Karn the Great Creator and a Karn board package.
Okay.
And how, like, honestly, there are games that you can just win based on that.
Yep.
And so I started to work that in. And I looked back at the list that we were looking at that were just black, white, blink. And when I went to our modern event on Tuesday last night, I brought a much different list.
Okay.
I dropped the Grease Fang. Mm-hmm. I meant to drop all of the Parhelions and somehow managed to leave one in the 75.
Oh, no.
Or I'm sorry, 95.
Oh, that's right, because you're playing Yorion.
Because I'm playing a Yorion list. But I went for what I think was much more powerful, and I did much better. Okay. So last night, overall, I went 3-1. Mm-hmm. My one loss was to 4-color elementals in 3 games. And that was to our friend Jacob Dawson, who was here telling us about, piloting that deck into the top 8 of a 1K. So he knows that deck really well.
Yep.
My first round opponent was playing Enchantress. To be fair, it was the first time he had ever played the deck.
Okay.
He crushed me in game 1. In game 2, I went Esper Sentinel on 1. He goes, okay. Played a land, enchantment on the land. Let me draw a card. I went Stoneforge on 2. Get Cauldra.
Okay.
He says, okay, on turn 2, I honestly don't remember what he did on turn 2. On my turn 3,
You slammed Cauldron.
I slammed Cauldron. I hit for 6.
Oh, 6 because of the Exalted.
The Esper Sentinel.
Esper Sentinel, yep.
And he went, oh, that's what he played. He played Sterling Grove.
Okay.
Because then he sacked it and went and got Oblivion Ring.
Ooh.
Or, what did he get? No, he got On Thin Ice.
Yep.
And untapped, took my Germ token.
Okay.
I played 4th land, Karn, tick up Karn on Kaldra, swing 8, because it's based on CMC.
So you made your equipment spell into a creature and continued to Bass Fate.
Yeah. So that game went really quick. So I'm just telling you, if they deal with the Germ token, if you can follow up your Kaldra with a Karn and animate it, it's pretty good.
Yep.
And then in a tighter game 3, I think I pulled some Voidwalker shenanigans.
Ooh.
Where it was like Voidwalker on 2, swing Liliana, make you discard a card, swing for 3, make you discard a card. Played something powerful, and I sacked the Voidwalker to play something from his graveyard. That feels like forever ago now. And I won that round. After that, I played against Green Black Yawgmoth. Mm-hmm. Again, the Karn package. Being able to... I ran Batterskull in the sideboard. So, being able to play Karn, grab Needle, name Yawgmoth, bought me time.
Yep.
Next turn, down tick again, get Batterskull when I had no other creatures in play. Was great. In round 3, I played against Jacob on Elementals. And I would say, honestly, I kept questionable hands. Like hands that could pitch Grief or Solitude, but no Ephemerate.
Okay.
In the list that I was running last night, I was only running 2 Touch the Spirit Realm and 4 Ephemerate in an 80-card list. Mm-hmm. I want to bump that up at least to 4 and 4 and maybe add a Malakir Rebirth, which is the land, the modal double-faced land.
Yep.
That will rebuy a creature.
And that costs 1 block, correct,
1 block.
to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I ended up putting myself at serious card advantage.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I didn't say about the deck from last night, and I know I feel like I'm monopolizing a lot of the conversation here, but I was still playing Smuggler's Copter last night.
That's right. Yep.
And that did come up a few times, like against Jake, where I griefed him twice, or I thought seized him and griefed him. Mm-hmm. And so I basically spent 3 cards to get 2 cards out of his hand. But I made him pitch a Vesperlock, and I let him keep the dude that when he attacks brings an elemental back from the graveyard.
Okay. Yep.
And the last 2 cards that I had in hand were an Ephemerate and a Solitude, but I was tapped out. And all I had in play was a Copter.
Okay. So you had no way to crew Copter for blocks. You had no way to flash in a Solitude with Ephemerate backup to remove another creature.
So he went and swung with the creature with haste, brought the Vesperlark back out. I evoked Solitude, exiling the Ephemerate, targeted his the 1/2 or whatever it is, the red card.
The one that brings back the elementals.
Right. And evoke trigger on the stack, crewed the Copter.
Yep. There you go.
Blocked the Vesperlark, and he's like, that was so good! That was so good! It was such value! And I was like, well, I paid 3 cards to get 2 cards out of your hand, and then another 2 cards.
Mm-hmm. So now you're empty-handed at this point.
I have 2 lands and a Smuggler's Copter.
Yep.
I did not win that game.
Yep. And actually, in my testing, I had similar situations where I wanted to crew the Copter to block, and so I had to do it with the Evoke trigger, and I had to do it with the Evoke trigger still in the stack of Solitude. So let the Exile trigger resolve, and then evoke trigger on the stack, crew the copter, or crew whatever looking to crew with it.
Yeah. Which is a great trick.
It is a great trick. To go back to your Yawgmoth matchup really quick, you're playing mainboard Voidwalkers.
Yep,
those are probably pretty good in that matchup.
Would be good to mulligan
because you exile their cards as a replacement effect from them hitting the graveyard, so they never get to combo off. Looking at the list that you have up here, I don't know if you want to bring it over to the main screen.
I don't yet, because this is not the list that I played last night.
Okay,
so this is the list as I intend to play it at F&M this week.
Okay,
and it's so different from what I played last night that I figure I just want to finish talking about that, because spoiler alert, there's no Smuggler's Copter in the list that I want to play on Friday night.
This is true. It is a bit different.
And last night when I showed up, I only had 2 cards.
Yep.
At one point, I had a pile of cards actually on this cast when Cooley was on the cast.
Way back when.
We went in on like 20 cards apiece when they were $4.50.
God, and what is it now? $20?
No, it's like, depending on, like, you can buy a single on TCG Player for 10 or 11.
Okay.
But if you wanted to buy a playset, the only person that can sell you a playset is charging like 14. Okay. But again, like, I had them, and every time somebody was like, "Hey, do you have a card?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll trade it. Yeah, I'll trade it." Last week I went into the shop and I had 2 foil cards, and Craig was like, "Oh, I need these." I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll trade them." And then, of course, I'm like, I want to play a 4-card deck. So when we say to you, the listener, maybe you just want to have 4 of these in your binder, put them in the binder that's not for trade. I'm so bad at that.
I'm actually doing that with a lot of my stuff. A lot of things I've been buying. Yeah. I'm buying playsets. I'm not buying playsets to sell them. I'm buying playsets to have, so I have a nice collection that I can thumb through and be like, this is really nice.
And part of the reason why the foils were in the trade binder is, my ongoing mission to sort of unfoil my modern collection, in that I don't mind holding on to the game pieces, but they don't need to be the super fanciest game pieces for rotating. And I honestly look at Modern as kind of a rotating format at this point.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, you'll be able to play your fish forever.
Yep.
But you put new cards in it from this set, right?
I did.
You put new cards in it probably from the last set.
I did.
Which
was mostly it was MH2.
Yeah.
And then this set being the Channel Land.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So anyway, in the last round, I played against a Bogle's opponent. I would not say that they probably didn't have a perfect list, and they were probably not a perfect player. But I was 2-1 going into round 4.
Yep.
And that was the pairing that I got. Nice guy. I want to say it was Aiden, maybe?
Okay.
Anyway, I didn't have particularly aggressive hands in game 1 or game 3, which were the 2 that I won. But when he went light pause and I looked in my hand and I had touched the Spirit Realm and I was going to untap, play my 3rd land.
Yep.
And just O-ring his light pause, I was like, okay, I feel good about this. Like, yes, you have a Bogle. In game 3, we were getting close. I was sweating. I'm not going to lie. He had a dude with lifelink and trample, and we were sort of in a racing situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I had Cauldra. I had... Now, I can remember this pretty clearly. I had an Esper Sentinel with a +1/+1 protection from creatures enchantment that I stole from him.
Ooh.
With a Dothi Voidwalker.
Okay.
Because that could block everything without trample for days.
Yep.
I had Cauldra, and I had a new Dothi Voidwalker. And he was at 14. And he had 2 creatures. One I knew had trample and lifelink, but I swung at him for 7. And he went to crack back at me. I think I was at 6. And he's like, go to combat, swing. And March of Otherworldly Light, you no longer have lifelink and trample.
Yep.
Was just game breaking. Mm-hmm. And he swung out to kill me. And I took 4 and went to 2 and cracked back for Xaxes.
So did you you obviously had to pay the white for the march, but
Yep.
how many cards did you discard from your hand? One?
None.
None. So you paid 2
I
mana
paid
or 3 mana?
4 mana.
Oh, wow. Going deep.
I mean, right. I know you don't usually hear tap 4 mana in a game of Modern, but this is so. And now I'll bring up the list as I want to play it on Friday and say this really is kind of a mid-range blink deck.
Yeah.
And this is in all the games that I played last night. Smuggler's Copter came up a couple of times, but I think I want to cut it in favor of, well, 1, having the full 4 cards, 2, having the full 4 touch the spirit realms. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to try out a Heart of Kirin, but it might be cute.
So I'll just add a little tidbit. In the testing that I was doing, I also felt that the Smuggler's Copters were decent, but they were kind of lackluster in a lot more situations than I would have liked. Yeah. So I think cutting those is fine. Instead of Liliana the Veils, I was playing Liliana the Last Hopes because I wanted to mill. The idea was I was still playing Greasefangs.
Yeah.
The idea was to mill my vehicles with Liliana into my graveyard so that main phase 1 I could just play a Greasefang and get it back.
And worst case scenario, if she mills the Greasefang, you also get the creature back.
I also get the creature back. That's right, and I can still
brilliant.
cast it. And then I can, as long as it's not the same turn I cast that Lily, I can still play him main phase 1 and get that ability. And her plus ability gives -2/-1 to target creature. Killed a few Ragavans with that.
Oh, -2/-1.
So that was pretty nice.
Yep.
I did.
Sorry,
Nope.
You just reminded me, but I did get a Liliana alt off on the Enchantress player.
Ooh.
If my first time ever playing Modern,
Yep.
that I got to alt Liliana the Veil.
Nice. The other thing was I felt multiple touch of the Spirit Realms was pretty bad.
Okay.
I felt like 2 was probably the correct number because I wanted 1 to blink. I wanted 1 for the blink effect and 1 for a potential, I'm going to just exile your thing. So I felt like 2 was fine. I did want the 4 Ephemerate.
Yep.
And then the other thing with touch of the Spirit Realm is it doesn't blink back immediately. It blinks back at the end of your next turn, or the end of the end step.
Yep.
Excuse me. And so many times did I pay 2 mana, go to blink something, and expect it to be back immediately.
Yeah.
And I was sorely disappointed and probably lost a few game points because of it.
Yep.
Because I wasn't reading what my cards were doing.
Yep.
So, that's on me. But I think you want the effects to be the same. And this is just kind of the same. Just something to play with.
So I think, now that was your experience playing it. Mm-hmm. But thinking about all the other edge cases, like being able to reset a Chalice, being able to reset a Champion of the Parish with a bunch of counters on it,
Yep.
being able to end step, target your opponent's creature, and then it's not there to block on your turn.
Yeah, those are lines that I didn't think of. So those are good points. Those are good points.
I think this is. I obviously have an attachment to this because I'm working on it.
Yep.
But I think that this is something that is going to take a lot of gameplay before I realize what the ins and outs are, like what the lines are.
Absolutely.
What can these cards do in every given situation? So, for those that are listening to the audio, I'm running 1 Heart of Kirin, 1 Cauldron Complete, 1 Maul of the Skyclaves, 1 Sword of Fire and Ice. I'm also running 1 Blade of the Oni, which is from Kamigawa. It's a 1 and a black, 3/1 with Menace, Artifact Equipment Demon. Equipped creature has power and toughness base 5/5 Menace and is a black demon in addition to its other types. Reconfigure is 4. Not too worried about that. Mm-hmm. You can tutor this up with Stoneforge Mystic and pitch it to a Grief if you have to. You want to get cuter than that? Later on, you can play Karn and bring it back from exile.
Oh, yeah.
So this is literally a black artifact that you can pitch to Grief and bring back with Karn. It's super cute.
Can we, though? Can we actually do that? Because...
You may choose an artifact card you own from outside the game or in exile. Reveal that card and put it into your hand.
Okay, I'm thinking of the other con.
Yeah.
That he exiles and you get it back through his own
Right.
ability.
Yeah.
And I thought this was similar, but it's not. So.
No.
Okay.
It's the same thing with Esper Sentinel. If somebody not that I think you would want to do this, but if somebody prismatic endings your Esper Sentinel, you can Karn minus and get it back from exile and replay it if you have no other creatures. Just to go back through the list, 1 Blade of the Oni. For other creatures, 4 Dothi Voidwalker, 4 Esper Sentinel, 4 Grief, 4 Solitude, 4 Stoneforge Mystic. For spells, we've got the 4 Touch the Spirit Realm, 4 Ephemerate, 2 Fatal Push, 1 March of Otherworldly Light, 2 Agadeem's Awakening as recursion/lands, 3 Thoughtseize, and a Dam as I need an emergency button. Right? It's targeted removal or I need to wipe the board. 7 Planeswalkers right now. I want to run 4 Karn and 3 Liliana. That may change. But I think with the Heart of Kirin and almost all of the creatures being able to crew it, having a higher Planeswalker count is good. It gives you longevity. And I'm really leaning into the Karn the Great Creative Plan because for grinding, that's been awesome. The Karn out of the sideboard will get Batterskull, Chalice, EE, Pithing Needle, Ratchet Bomb, Relic, or Sword of Feast and Famine.
All just really good other silver bullets, not to interject, but
No, please.
Typical things that if you're playing something like this, you kind of have that wish board. You want to be able to utilize it, which I also feel like one of the black-white blink decks I was playing, I wasn't utilizing the sideboard properly. Didn't really know what I wanted, so I think this is definitely a great starting point.
So the other sideboard cards are 2 more Dams, 2 more Fatal Push, and the 4th Thoughtseize, which I honestly feel like could come or go. If I'm working more on if I'm going to leave 4 Grief in the deck, do I want to go up to 8 Thoughtseize discard effects? Maybe. I want to be able to blink the Grief.
Yep.
So I want to get 2 Thoughtseizes out of my Grief.
Well, so the other thing, something that you don't have is you don't have a white-black spell that could pitch to Solitude and Grief. You could play Vindicate.
I could play Vindicate, or I could play Vanishing Verse.
Yes, which basically does they do similar things, don't they?
I think so. Let's check out Vanishing Verse and Vindicate. Vanishing Verse.
So I think I had this situation where I noticed I didn't have enough multicolor things to pitch to both Solitude and Grief, so I started playing Vindicates in one of the later lists.
So Vanishing Verse, it will exile for a white and a black, target mono-colored permanent.
Okay.
That does not get rid of a Karn.
Nope.
But it is cheap, will pitch to either, and exiles. Versus Vindicate, which should be able to read this off, but I know it's 3 mana, destroy target permanent.
Yep. And the difference, one of the other differences is Vindicate's sorcery speed. The other one's an instant.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to pick and choose your battles with it. But
if it's occasionally it will have a target, or most of the time it just pitches to one or the other, that might be a good one of.
Yep.
Honestly, I was thinking in this Heart of Kirin spot, I was thinking that could be a Kaya's Guile, which also fills that same role of a card that pitches to either. I really, really, really wish that cards had color identity in Modern, the way that they do in Commander.
Yep. And
that Dam could be pitched for either white or black. That ain't how it works. That ain't how it works, kids.
Nope.
We're actually starting to run long. One of the things that I was hoping that we would do in this episode is talk about, hey, if I run this 95 on Friday, how would you board against Grixis Shadow?
So I'd probably want the extra removal spells from the sideboard, so Dams, Fatal Push, because they're both very cheap. They both handle most of the creatures, Death Shadow and any other cheap creatures. I don't know what other than Death Shadow. They're usually running Ragavans and DRCs, so Fatal Pushes still kill those.
Go up to full 3 dams because dam can take care of the whole board or Murktide.
Yep. So I'd bring in those. I might bring in March of the Otherworldly Light. The only thing is it doesn't hit if they're running Murktides. It's bad against that. And then maybe the Thoughtseize, right? Relic could be kind of cute, but I don't think you need it.
Well, and you want to get that with Karn probably.
Right. So I'd bring in the 2 dams, the 2 Fatal Pushes, and then maybe the Thoughtseize. So we're looking at 4 to 5 cards. I'd take the March of Otherworldly Light from the main board, put it in the sideboard. I was not having good luck with Blade of the Oni and Maul of Skyclaves.
Gotcha.
So I'd probably move those to the sideboard.
Yep.
And then I tend to shave on copies of cards when I'm sideboarding with Fish. So like I'd probably shave on a copy of Touch of the Spirit Realms. Maybe sort of Fire and Ice, because I mean you do have the protection from red and blue there, but it all kind of depends.
Yeah. Well, and any of those that you put in the sideboard, you end up having access to with Karn.
Yep.
So I really actually like the idea of sideboarding Blade of the Oni or Maul of the Skyclaves. They're great cards that can pitch to your elementals that also have value with Stoneforge. But if all Stoneforge can get is Kaldra or Sword of Fire and Ice, and Karn can get the rest of them, that's fine.
Yeah. You don't need to, game 2 and game 3, you could even sideboard away from the Stoneforge package a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of throw your opponent off. So
Yep.
There's a lot of utility
more
there.
control.
Mm-hmm. And you still have Battleskull on the sideboard as well as whatever equipments we put there for Karn.
Yeah.
So
Like Touch of the Spirit Realm as a 3 mana kind of Oblivion Ring is just fine against a Wormcoil Engine.
this is true. It doesn't have a mana restriction on what you can take.
Yeah.
It just has is it a card? No, it's
Creature
or artifact.
Or artifact.
So it limits you on what you can take, but it doesn't limit the mana value of what you can take. So Ugins, Giant Con, Wormcoil Engines, Murktide Regents. Like,
can't hit Ugin.
Can't hit Ugin, you're right. Can't hit Planeswalkers.
Can't hit
you're right.
Planeswalkers.
Okay. Murktide Regents, Wormcoil Engines, any other big creatures, Furies, Solitudes that have resolved, like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's actually a great catch-all that you just end up with in the main board.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that idea of going down on a couple of the equipment that you still have access to if you want.
Yep.
Changing out, again, yes, Touch of the Spirit Realm is good, but maybe going down to 3. Maybe, yeah. I think both of those are good. What would you do? Here's a question. What would you do against Fish?
Same
thing.
Probably the same thing. I'd definitely bring in March of the Otherworldly Light in that matchup. The Thoughtseize is debatable. Ratchet Bomb's a little bit slow. EE, you are at that sweet spot where most of my things cost 2.
Yep.
So you have white and black. You can put it on 2 and blow up pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Chalice is a no-go. So we were looking at 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. I'd bring all those in. Karn the Great Creator, depending on if you wanted to keep the wish board for that, you could remove
Remember, it's an 80 card deck, so
This is true.
I feel like with say Ratchet Bomb or EE, I can't bring in 4 copies of EE, but if I leave EE in the sideboard,
That's true.
I might have 4 if I can get to it.
Yeah, if you can get to it.
I have 4 copies with Karn, in theory.
Yep. What I would remove, Thoughtseize is pretty good. Agmandine's Awakening, I know you're mostly using it to pitch for Grief or play it as a land. You could probably cut 1 there. Again, Maul of the Skyclaves, Blade of the Oni, I feel like those... Blade of the Oni is going to trade with almost anything that I play unless I have Island Walk. So if you want to plan on me having Island Walk, you probably put it in the sideboard so you can then fetch it later on.
Yeah.
Touch of the Spirit Realms, I think are fine, just because you now have so much removal between Touch, the 4 Fatal Pushes, the 2 March of the Otherworldly Lights. You just in the dams.
Yeah.
You just have so much spot removal.
Thinking about things like Kira and what's Kira at home.
Civloon, Sea and Sky.
If I play Touch the Spirit Realm and it resolves as an enchantment,
you get to exile the Civloon of Sea and Sky straight up because Indestructible doesn't prevent you from targeting it.
But what, okay, so how about Kira?
Kira, you'd have to have 2 removal spells. You'd have to target it with, Fatal Push
and then play Touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, or you can just, emergency button Dam for 4 mana and wipe the board, except for Civloon, because she is indestructible.
Until I don't have 2
of the Merfolk.
And then push it.
Yep. So, again, spot removal is great for creature-based decks, such as Merfolk and anything else.
How about something like a Living End?
Living End, you definitely want Chalice of the Voids.
Okay. There's a reason why there's 2 on the board.
Yep. You probably board in 1. And so here's the issue though. Karn is a little slow.
Yep.
Right. So if
even if you play Karn on 4, get Chalice and play it for 0 that same turn, it's probably too late.
It's probably too late. So you could debate leaving 1 in the sideboard or just boarding in 2. I would probably board in 2 and maybe mulligan aggressively for it because you are a 80 card deck, so you want to see it.
Yeah.
You could also probably go up to 3 copies in that situation, but so
and that might be like when I'm looking at the Thoughtseize on the board.
Yep.
Maybe I cut that for a 3rd Chalice.
But you definitely want those. You definitely want the Chalice of the Voids. And then you do have a Relic, so you could also play the Relic and maybe just mulligan aggressively. Because they're going to... The good thing about it, though, is you have Solitudes to play around the living ends at instant speed.
Yep.
Griefs, you don't have to worry about hardcasting Griefs. You just let them die, go to the graveyard, and it puts fuel into your graveyard for a living end.
Yep.
Cauldron Complete generates a germ token. You don't care about the germ token. Heart of Karen doesn't get hit by it. Honestly, you might this version might have a decent matchup against Living End.
So the other thing that I think about is how does Living End get to their... I mean, they're like, oh, I'm confusing Living End and Ad Nauseam.
Okay.
For a second. So with Living End, they're just like cycle, Cascade.
Correct.
And then they want to cast Living End for nothing. So there's really not much you can do other than what you already described. Is, you can do things like, in response to the Living End, I can evoke a Solitude for nothing and just let it go to the graveyard. And then when the Living End resolves, it's going to put my Solitude back on the battlefield, and hopefully they're not all hexproof creatures.
Correct. Yeah. Because they play a 5/5 hexproof that Solitude can't touch. But you also have, you can Thoughtseize. If you keep the 4th Thoughtseize and bring it in, you can Thoughtseize their Cascade cards before they have the chance to do it. So you can do it a few ways. You can try for the Chalices to prevent the actual Living Ends. You can play 4 copies of Grief and Thoughtseize and take things from their hand.
I can see taking out March of Otherworldly Light.
Yep.
I can see taking out 2 Fatal Push.
Yep.
I could see maybe going down on Liliana's.
You could. It is, if that one might be play draw dependent. So if you're on the play, I'd probably keep it in.
Yeah.
Just because you can go turn 1 Thoughtseize or Grief, and you can really shrink their hand size. If you're on the draw, definitely take it out.
Yeah. I'm just thinking giving them a way to put cards in the graveyard for free might be rough.
That's true.
But I'm also thinking, bring in the other Thoughtseize, bring in the dams.
Yep.
And then kind of maybe try to count on Karn, get Relic.
You could.
Pop Relic.
It's slow though.
And it is.
That's
that's why I'm thinking, like, if the Griefs and Thoughtseize will get you there, that's certainly going to do... Like, Fatal Push doesn't really kill anything in the deck. March isn't going to hit anything without putting a ton of mana into it. What I could cut. But, hey, I'm probably more talking about this deck than anybody wanted to for a deck that nobody is going to play but me. But I appreciate it, and hopefully I get to play F&M on Friday and come back with another report. Hey, let's crack a pack.
Sure.
I got 4 prize packs for coming in 3rd place last night. Our first place finishers, David Duffer and Jacob, friggin' split. Losers. Kotos the Silent Spider. I have no idea what that is.
Well, I got a mythic.
You did?
I think it's bad, though. Explosive Singularity.
I have no idea what that is.
It is 8 mana. It's 8 generic and double red. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may tap any number of untapped creatures you control. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature tapped this way. Deals 10 damage to any target. At sorcery speed.
At sorcery speed.
So.
Okay, so if you have 8 creatures in play, you can hit something for 10 for 2 red.
I mean,
all right.
there is young Pyromancer that makes tokens.
Yeah.
And there are token generating decks out there that might be able to use that, but it is very, very might.
And these packs suck. I hope you did well again.
I hit a rare. I mean, it's a decent rare. It's the 2 heavens as 1.
Hey, we talked about that guy last week.
Issue 2 heavens as
I keep hitting
2
stuff.
heavens as 1.
You didn't get any March Touch the Spirit Realms, did you?
I didn't look. Probably not though.
You're not looking at the uncommons,
I
huh?
never look at the uncommons.
You're so spoiled. Friggin' spoiled Magic players. I got the red March as my rare in this pack.
No touches, unfortunately.
No touches. So I've been putting out the calls. Like I said earlier, I realized that I've traded all my Karns away. So to actually have 4 Karns for Friday, I'm working through the network to try and get 2 more Karns on Friday and 2 more Touch the Spirit Realms. And I'm looking forward to coming back next Wednesday.
Absolutely. So, as always, thank you guys for listening or watching us, wherever you're viewing this or consuming this content. You can find me at Motown111 on Twitter.
Motown underscore. Mo underscore.
Town 111. I gotta get used to doing that.
Yeah.
How about you, Brad?
You can find me at the SnapCast Pod on Twitter. And as Darb Nierbo on Arena. I was thinking maybe next week we'll put like your screen name on there.
Yeah, we can do
that. And
that.
I'll put my Arena screen name on there because I don't play that Moto bullshit.
I've deleted Arena from most of my devices. So maybe we'll put my Moto screen name.
That's what I'm saying. Your Moto screen name. Yeah.
That works.
We'll put Motown, Arena, Darb Nierbo, which is basically just my name backwards. And I can tell you about my historic blue-white deck that is terrible.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
All right, guys. As always, thanks. Catch you later.